Today I'd like to talk to you about authenticating Lyndon B. Johnson signatures.
I speak tonight for the dignity of man and the destiny of democracy. I urge every member of both parties, Americans of all religions and of all colors, from every section of this country, to join me in that cause.
The first thing I'm going to show you is some very interesting authentic LBJ letters from our inventory. This first letter is written to Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara. You'll notice that the signature of Lyndon Johnson is very rapid, smooth. Pay attention to the period right here because we're going to talk a lot about that later. It's not that legible. You can't really read Johnson and it kind of trails off towards the end. The J in an authentic LBJ signature almost always has a triangle as the top loop of the J. The secretaries usually try to approximate a triangle, but it usually has a rounded characteristic to it. It wasn't natural for them to write in that fashion. Here's another example to Robert McNamara, and this is a terrific example because it shows a lot of speed to the signature. It's very dark and you can see it very easily. And it also shows what LBJ's handwriting looked like. One of the things that I've noticed about the authentic L in LBJ's signature is not only is it angular, the length of the line of the L usually does not go down more than half. Whereas the secretaries, sometimes they go down 2/3 the line that connects. Also, the secretaries never really nailed the angularity of the L. It's usually rounded, not always, but usually. Some of the best references you can use when you're going to research your LBJ signature, you can't really beat Charles Hamilton, American Autographs Volume 1 and 2, for his treatment of LBJ, which goes on for pages. And he shows what the initials look like. Again, notice the J and the L, the same. What his signature looked like as early as 1939. And notice it's a little rounder. The formations of the letters are a little bit rounder. Shows what a full handwritten letter looks like, very rare. Online, there's a lot of information on auto pens. It's Stephen Beck's auto pen page. I would recommend it. The auto pen machine is a machine that basically has a pen in a holder and there's a matrix made and the signature repeats itself exactly again and again. Now, if you signed your name on a piece of paper, you cannot write your name exactly the same way twice. So the way we determine an auto pen is see if it's exactly the same. It can have little variations, but it's pretty much these signatures are exactly the same. Look how different the ink is. One is kind of a brown ink and one is a bluish ink. Well, if you took these two and laid them on top of each other, they would match exactly. Here's another example of an auto pen. One thing I like to do when authenticating a signature is I like to look where the dot is positioned in relation to the letters. And if that's exact, you've got a very good clue there. Here are some illustrations of secretarial signatures. I have some originals of secretarial signatures and we could take a closer look, and I'm going to explain with each one what makes them a non-authentic example. These two are signatures of LBJ. First of all, notice they both don't have the period. Authentic signatures as president should have the period, but not always. Most of the time they do. Another thing that's really important to note about the period is the fact that somebody can take a really good secretarial signature that's, say, written in black and add a black period to it. And you've got to be very careful to periods that have been added later. Usually under a glass, you could differentiate between the two types of inks or the way that they look. This one is just all over the place. This is 1960. Notice the funny shaped B and how it kind of crescents here. And also notice the roundness of the L. We've been talking a lot about that. The L and the B are really good determinants. And here's one where the letters of the signature kind of mushed together, and it feels kind of cramped, but it's a pretty good imitation. In finality, one must execute extreme caution when buying an LBJ letter, book, document. Only buy from trusted dealers. Maybe get a second opinion. Be careful, do your research, and you'll be very happy with what you purchased.